Theodore was welcomed back to the Dark's villa. It was almost like they'd been preparing for the visit at least 2 days, despite it only being one full morning. Theodore and Roderick went and walked to the Dark's entrance, and Lucia welcomed them all with an even more warmer tone than before. The house wasn't anything new anymore for Theodore, but it still amazed him by its looks and size. Roderick was taking off his boots while Theodore already had gotten his smaller shoes and was looking at his master. Roderick took a portrait from the entrance dresser and looked very closely at it. Suddenly, a sad gesture raised to his face, which Theodore could not miss. Let us get to the table, then we will talk a little bit. Roderick stated and collected his mind together. Theodore nodded, left his bag on the entrance, and walked with his master to the dining room. There Lucia was already expecting them. She had something in the cooker, but she didn't tell or speak anything of it, so Theodore didn't keep it as important. It was probably the Dark's dinner or something. Roderick had a piece of paper on his place on the table that looked like the testament from a few days ago. Theodore wasn't yet quite sure how to take it, but he quickly connected the pieces together. Roderick started to speak again about plans, of course, because what else he'd be speaking of? So I believe you remember that day when we spoke about this. I'd like to bring them up also to my heir, Lucia. If this testament is just fine for you, Theodore and I will find witnesses who will accept its assignment. After all, it is about my family's fortunes, and something that will be yours one day. Lucia looked at Theodore and cracked a smile, like she tried to tell that she was completely okay with it, without saying anything out loud. While Lucia was not your first option to your inheritance division, Theodore turned back on Roderick and asked, back in time, you know what happened. And also, because she thought that there will be some other and better choices available. The rest, I believe you can guess. Roderick finished that sentence, and Lucia sat down next to Theodore. Lucia continued her father's speech. Also, you're important for me. You're important for father and me. Lucia said, but couldn't help herself being stuck in her words and blushing a little. When her father was around, Roderick got it and shifted his focus away, like he didn't even watch towards her, nor was he hearing anything. Thank you, both of you. Theodore realized that he wasn't going to get any further answers, at least not under these circumstances, so he decided to let it slide. Surprisingly, Roderick kept the discussion going. What is that Lucia, you find so important in him? Roderick asked slightly sarcastically. Lucia was a bit flustered after this and tried to get the attention elsewhere. I believe that our food is already prepared, she said and rushed to the cooker. Theodore looked at her with worried gestures in his face, given how awkward she looked, but then moved his focus towards Roderick and remembered that question he asked from Lucia. Theodore's face started to get pale, and he shifted his look towards at his hands. After melting that question for a while, he squeezed his hands into a fist and let out a sigh, like he was ashamed or afraid of over something. This emotional surge was put on stop when Lucia put a plate, fork and knife in front of him. Then he remembered what he learned about feelings from Lucia. Then Theodore thought that maybe he can tell Roderick about it. Time went faster than expected during the brief emotional surge. While Theodore was letting his emotions get into his head on the surface, Roderick and Lucia had already taken some food for them and had made the table. They both encouraged Theodore also to take some piece of to himself. So he did. Only after Theodore took some salt from the cooker, he realized that the meat used here was the tenderloins he brought during his first visit. He couldn't help it and said it out loud. "Have you saved all of this all the way here, Mr. Duck?" Roderick let his usual calm laugh, which for Theodore felt very fatherly. Roderick also replied back to him, "Yes, if you mean your gift, Mr. Trevor." When Theodore finally heard Roderick call him Mr., it made his blood stop for a second. He felt like this is not happening, and that Roderick was just polite. But then again, why it would be obsolete? Kind of like Lucia's letter. Theodore thought, took some time to calm down, and sat to the table. I certainly did not expect anything like this to happen today. Shall I call this a miracle? Theodore thought while he was eating the sword from his plate. Suddenly, Lucia leaned at his shoulder and was about to ask something until she looked at Roderick. The man realized it and started to pretend again like he wasn't seeing or hearing anything. So Lucia dared to ask, "Do you like it?" "It is the best recipe I have come up with. From you. To just us together." Lucia whispered and leaned back to her seat. Theodore already realized the ingredients for the sword, but when someone else said it like that, it came out of nowhere and felt even nicer. He simply decided to answer the question with simple thanks and moved on as well as he could. Roderick was the first one to leave the table because he ate the fastest, and so he left to his office. After this, Lucia decided to talk with Theodore again in more personal matters. "If you really believe that our friendship works, Father just wants us to share the Duck's fortune as you know it. But under these circumstances we are in, there might be a better option." Theodore started to catch up with Lucia's point, and she snapped when he heard the word friendship. After some visible hesitation by Lucia, he responded, "Is there something I didn't get? What was about the letter you found calling me friend so weird? Now, I am going to be honest here. No hiding anymore. Lucia Duck, you are the only one who appreciates me in a way no one else does. You tell me the sweetest compliments I've ever gotten and give me more happiness than anyone has given to me. Especially when you are around me. And I like you, perhaps more than I'm allowed to," Theodore said, but for him, they were more than just words. Finally, he was able to speak about sentimental matters without getting flustered or embarrassed. Also, he finally got out from his head. He liked and cared for people around him. No weird tension over it or some sort of guilt. Lucia soon cut this relief, but it wasn't anything negative. Instead, it went deeper into Theodore's skin. More than you were allowed to. Where that came from then? But you got me there. I was just not ready to tell you how I really feel. Theodore, you are the most mature person of my age I can think of. Also one of the wisest of our livelihood that I know. I don't care where you are from, wealthy, poor. You have proven that you are capable and skilled and strong beginning of a man. Lucia said, and put her hand inside Theodore's large, bigger hand and closed it into a fist. If your like more than I'm allowed to means I love you, I can say that you're not alone. If you'd wish to say it that way, I wouldn't. I mean, you're correct. Here goes nothing. I love you. You make me feel it in a way no one else has ever done. There is nothing wrong having feelings over someone else, right? So you already confessed. So do I. I love you, Theodore Trevor. My brave, strong and diligent Theodore. Always heard nothing but good about you. And now I have witnessed with all my own eyes that you are the man I needed in the middle of my age. Thank you, Lucia. Thank you. Why wouldn't you just call me Lucy? When it's all the way, I'll tell the father, okay? He might have already known about this. After Theodore said that, they both cracked a laugh and finished their dinner. So they moved on to Roderick's office. Roderick's reaction to the turn of events were very minor and happy, like he was trying to imply, I knew this was going to happen. They really forebode teams in the house. Theodore took a look at the clock and already realized that Evie might be already expecting him. He told her about his suspicions and started to prepare his departure and left to the villa's entrance. Lucia came up to her boyfriend and they kept talking about something not so important or anything remarkable. Theodore put his shoes back on his feet and went out from the house. Lucia stopped him halfway through the dog's front yard. Theodore had already moved outside the house's entrance, and Lucia ran at him with bare socks against the cold and icy ground. Theodore turned at her, and he was immediately greeted with a hug. The last time they'd hugged each other was unknown and awkward time, at least for Theodore due to lack of knowledge about her love or feelings or care. Theodore didn't hesitate all this time. He hugged back, and when he just realized what happened. Because the Trevor was visibly taller than the dog, he leaned down a bit to put his cheek against Lucia's cheek. So they hugged each other even tighter and pushed their cheeks together in a way that only could have worked and warmed them in the chilling wind and cold winter. After a few seconds, they stopped, said goodbyes, and so Theodore left the dog's villa. And Lucia stayed still a while outside of her house and waved back to his boyfriend. It took the meal to be enjoyed. It took more than just that. It took so long that after Theodore left out the villa and had just arrived back home, he realized the unspoken intention of the visit. To get the two closer, and even more important, get the two aware of Roderick's future plans. And then again, it was a successful visit, and probably it reached to his goal. Also, Theodore and Lucia got to confess each other their feelings. Bit an exaggerated way, but still. Back in Theodore's home, Elvira had picked up the Rhodo's corpse from the Theodore's storage and had started to cut it by herself. She really didn't know what she was doing with it, and when Theodore opened the house's door, she let out an uncontrolled gasp and almost dropped her knife. Theodore then, out of sheer shock from the ground sound, ran towards the kitchen and was completely taken by surprise. He had never seen Evie trying to cut Gamel's corpse, and she was never frightened by her son's presence. What was that for a moment? Theodore asked, with a sense of authority in the situation. Well, Butcher was when I started this. You've been doing this for a while now, and I thought to do it by myself this time. It couldn't be that hard. Evie soon said to get her deep into her defense. Theodore then walked up to the corpse his mother was cutting, and his mood saw a big drop. Mother, you did it wrong. You don't cut the hamstring straight from the corpse. You first cut the legs out from the corpse. Yeah, do them yourself, Mr. Impressor. But you aren't better than I am, especially here. And also, do you really know you have to rely on every task just yourself? Abby shouted to her son and pointed at the house's furnace. Despite her visible jealousy and envying over Theodore's skills with a knife, she left the situation because she didn't want to make it even more embarrassing for her. Guess I'll have to take it from here now on, Theodore told to himself and started to move with the knife around the door's corpse. And despite some difficulties, it was over in no time. So began a passive and calm moment for a while, until the evening. In the dark villa was for both family members a happy time. Roderick had even better outlook on what he will leave behind when he dies, and Lucia had found her first person she could say loved, aside from her parents and other family members. Even Lucia herself couldn't quite guess that she was going to be with some crofter from the same village, but they were here now, and she was at her happiest. In her room, Lucia took a look at her recent class portraits from school, and she felt disappointment rising in herself. None of the boys or girls in her class were really all that eager when talking about their future, nor were they as motivated to learn anything new. This was something Lucia called alienating for herself. Lucia put the photograph down and started to move on downstairs, as she wasn't expecting Roderick to meet her in the middle of the stairs. But there he was, out from his office. Lucy, I'm all happy for you. I really am. But I'm also a bit surprised by your choice. Was the youth in urban environment really so bad that you'd choose someone whose quality of life is significantly lower? If it was so, I hold no questions over you, and Theodore, I see why you got affected by him. Lucia got blushed by this, but she simply replied to it. It is more than just that. Don't you agree that he would be an awesome host for our family? If someone would agree on that, it's you, Lucia said and walked past her father. Roderick stood still a while, but then he also left the staircase. Lucia was still surprised that her father was there, so she decided to ask a little about it. Shouldn't you be in your office? No, I just finished my work for today. But speaking of it, I have something to show you about my plans I've done. Organizing is the key to everything they even when Gustav knew how to enhance it even further, it still does not mean I am wrong. Roderick said and brought Lucia to his office, where he'd present his business plans. Lucia was a bit confused by all of this. Father, why do you tell me? Why father would tell me his plans about the workshop to me, especially when I haven't really done anything to it? Lucia kept thinking, but when Roderick pulled out a sketch from Claw Lake's biggest marketplace, she started to get an idea where he might come from. As Roderick kept explaining his sketch, it confirmed Lucia's all guesses. It was a sketch from Claw Lake's biggest marketplace, and there was also a lot of different drawings from different products out of wood. Roderick also brought an empty A4 paper and wrote there, signed by, and the rest of it was empty space. There we have our most recent drawings from our models. I thought that the next time when we are going to the marketplace of Claw Lake, I'll bring these drawings with me and I'll try to find local carpenters and form a connections with them. Just so I don't surprise you when I will leave you there alone. Lucia was shaken by this. Why would Roderick try to do something like this? What is he trying? To get hold from the open markets as well? Lucia took the empty A4 and turned it around. There she saw a text which said, I accept a partnership deal with Dark's workshop and say contact to its leader, Roderick Richard Dark. You start to get it now? Mr. Dark asked from puzzled Lucia. Yes, but why haven't you tried this on previous years? Lucia asked back. Because there has no need for it yet. Because there has been no need for it yet, Roderick said to his daughter. He couldn't help but ask from her, is it okay that you'll be in the marketplace alone from now on? Because this might take time and effort from me, so I won't be able to support you there anymore. Which Lucia said like she felt like she was insulted at the moment. Of course it'll be okay. Good. Roderick said back and took his typewriter and other tools, put them back to their closets, and they left the office once again. Roderick went to the living room and picked up the newspaper written by Vasa. Lucia sat next to him, trying to read between the lines without them noticing. They even already started to fall darkness and get into the village. Back in the traverse, Theodore had gotten back from his hunt again. This time returning with 2 big deers he caught from the family's fields. He brought them to the base shed and stepped inside their hut. In their hut, Evie had prepared soup from the door Theodore caught earlier during the day, while awaiting her son. She took a look at her brochure she got from Claw Lake's marketplace. After Theodore had arrived at the house, they both took their own plates and started to eat the soup. It didn't take long enough until the hungry two had eaten their plates empty and were full. So Elvira took the soup pot and left it outside to cool down, and then bringing it to the fridge. Theodore, out of curiosity, took a look at the brochure Evie was having. It was a compilation of all the sales for the market and all the participants of it. Nothing too special, so Theodore let it be. During the hunt, the time went like its speed was doubled. Theodore took a look at the clock and expected it to be at least 7:45 p.m. But no, it was already 9:07 p.m. So he decided to end the day there. Theodore did his usual evening routines and wished a good night for Elvira before bed. But before he could go to sleep, Evie asked one thing from her son. Have you taken at least 2 days off with your hunts? Theodore was visibly hesitant by this question and tried to hide his embarrassment, so he replied quickly, yes. Elvira couldn't help but crack a small smile and went back to her evening routines. She looked like she was happy about something. Theodore came up with a conclusion that this didn't mean anything, so he didn't pay attention to it. He stepped into his room and threw himself into a horizontal plane on the bed. Out of all the day's events, Theodore's mind went back to Lucia and their relationship. Finally, Theodore didn't feel awkward or guilt over liking someone. He wasn't ready to say love just yet, but something very, very close. What was it that Theodore just couldn't take her out of his head anymore? Maybe he could call her tomorrow, just as long as it could have been something. Why and what else it could have been? Or was it still Theodore trying to suppress his emotions? Maybe the answers will soon emerge. To be continued.